Okay. So I'm going to um, give my thoughts and opinions on The Last Airbender. Now, The Last Airbender is probably one of my favorite pieces of one of my favorite stories. Like I actually love the Airbender. Like for real. Like I love the Airbender. I've watched the movie that they said flopped. I watched Korra's Airbender. I watched the animated series, and I just finished watching the first version on Netflix. Now, we're gonna first start with the obvious. Um, there was no melanin. There was melanin. There just wasn't enough melanin. There were people of color, but there wasn't any black people. And I understand that this is supposed to be true to the anime version, but if Aang is saving the world, where are the black people in the world? Like, is Aang saving a world that black people don't live in? Like, is what world is Aang really saving? So, that was the question for me. Like, they kept saying the Avatar is to save the world. Well, where the fuck the black people at? In this world. And so, once you get past that, like, and this is where using the term world can be very tricky. It's a slippery slope to say save the world, to constantly be Angus come to save the world. Angus gonna save the world. What exactly? Because we all live in our. They say, oh, it's a different world where you come from, or poor people and wealthy people live in different worlds. So um, we live in different worlds. So my question throughout the series was, which world are we saving? Whose world are we saving? Because some worlds don't need to be saved. You know what I'm saying? Like, Aang, you can keep that world, and you could have stayed in a block of ice if you was coming out the block of ice just so you could save certain people, just so you could save colorism. And so this is how, and I think it was a little revealing for me because this is how the world really plays out. Like the real thing about the Avatar is this is a contractual agreement between certain nations that's what's really going on in the world. This is what representation looks like for the most part. This is who we feel represents the world when we put out narratives and messages like this. A lot of us have, subliminally co-signed and made an agreement and have accepted this narrative. The movie. Yeah. So a lot of us have secretly co-signed and accepted this narrative that we've agreed that this is what the world looks like. It looks like a whole bunch of light-skinned people, a whole bunch of people who look racially ambiguous coming together, fighting to save their version of the world, their idea of the world. So now that we have discussed the pink elephant in the room, because I did want I felt like I would be remiss if I didn't touch on that. But after we get past the colorist side of it, after we get past that, um, the story is still beautiful on so many levels. Um, it brought up a lot for me. I felt like there was a lot of unnecessary talking. I felt like some of the graphics and some of the special effects said what needed to be said. I felt like it was a lot of talking. I felt like they used children to just kind of like babble because it was just like, oh girl, get on with it. Like it was just it was a lot. Like everything doesn't need to be communicated verbally. Sometimes, this is what we're watching it for. This is what we're witnessing it on film for. Everything doesn't need dialogue. Some things you just should be able to telepathically understand what's happening in this moment. So I felt like there was parts where it was just too wordy for me. It was just y'all was just, oh, Aang, you must say, Aang, we're your family. We love you, Aang. Like, like, can we express this without necessarily having to talk this out? So there were parts of it that were too wordy for me, but when I first discovered the Avatar, when I first became a follower of the Avatar story, um, the reason why it resonates with me on so many levels, learning how to master the different elements, which are all in us, and we all belong to different tribes. Some of us are Gemini, some of us are Libra, some of us Aquarius, some of us Virgo, some of us Scorpio, some of us Cancer, some of us Pisces, some of us Sagittarius, some of us Taurus, some of us Capricorn, um, yeah, some of us Scorpio. Like we all Aries, like we all belong to Virgo, like we Libra, like Aquarius. We all belong to like these different tribes, air, earth, fire, and water, and learning how to master our relationships with each group. With each group of people, it helps to strengthen us as diplomats, as creatives, as ambassadors, as storytellers, as culture bearers, as beings who have the potential to bridge communities and to bridge worlds. And so for that, I have a profound connection with it, learning the art of mastering or mistressing, these elements and your relationships to these elements. Not necessarily actual fire or actual water or actual earth or actual air. If this is something that you aspire to do, then by all means go for it. But for me, it resonated more in the way of learning how to um, become an avid practitioner of building communication and building relationships between people who identify under different signs in the zodiac. So learning how to really really become an expert at having healthy relationships with beings who fall, whether you fall under the water tribe or the earth sign or the air tribe, like having healthy relationships with them. So that's what it spoke to me. I'm not gonna lie, when I first watched it, I was, I want to learn how to work the elements, and but when I peeled it back beneath the surface and I really started to get into it, that's always been the idea of helping me to learn to be a better communicator, to learn to be a better listener, to learn to be a better servant, to learn to be a better guide, to learn to be a better healer. Like that the avatar represents that for me. Um, it also encourages me as a being who has had bottom surgery, so I don't have a high level of testosterone in my body. And seeing a being be able to be so powerful that hadn't even hit puberty, because Aang was a child. Aang had a child's body. Aang had not hit puberty. His body wasn't all hormonal. And so he was able to channel all of that energy, and he was able to channel all of that through him without having to hit puberty. And so a lot of times when we hear about meditative practices, we hear about our chakras, we hear about all of these things, it's always adults. And so I've never really seen a teacher who was post-op, who had who had bottom surgery, who was born with the XY chromosome, who was a spiritual teacher, who was teaching about the chakras, who was teaching about channeling certain energies, who was teaching about having this type of power. Every time we hear people talk, like even when you listen to Queen Afuma, the one who talks about the sacred woman, all of these teachers are teaching from this place of we are fully grown adults and we are, using our, whether it be our female hormones, whether it be our testosterone, we're using this energy to channel and to create. And so by me being post-op, my body is not producing mass amounts of either. It's not producing mass amounts of testosterone or mass amounts of estrogen unless I'm, taking the synthetic hormone. And so because I don't always like to take it, I like to give my body breaks. Aang's story is encouraging because it reminds me that, like, in this story, Aang is one of the most powerful beings on the planet, aside from the spirit, and Aang hasn't even hit puberty yet. So, um, I love that about the story. I think there's a lot of Buddha style messages in a lot of Buddha style messages in this story. And my issue with the Buddhist perspective is that Buddhism, for me, I feel it looks at things through a lens that is always from a human perspective. And I know that it's hard to look at things in another way, but I think that we were put on this planet with all of these different beings and all of these different entities so that we could observe other creatures, so that we could glean from them, so that we could learn from them, so that we could witness being through their through observing them, you know. And so I just feel like a lot of times I get we're humans and we're having a human experience, and there's really not any other way to express what we're experiencing. I just feel like if we're evolving, and if the goal is to continue to morph into whatever species we will potentially become, I think that as storytellers, we have to find a way to share stories that don't always center this spoon fed human logic. Like, for example, um, it's like we have to fight the darkness. We have to fight to overcome the darkness. We can't let the darkness win. We can't let chaos win. I don't know about that. I mean, true, if we want the world to continue to function as it is, if we want the world to continue to go on as it goes on, then I guess. But how, like, sometimes it takes a storm. Sometimes things have to get chaotic. Sometimes things have to get dark. Like, that's fundamentally a part of who we are. And that's why I'm not upset about black people not really being in it, because you can't do anything without us. Like there was representation of darkness even though it was not in human form. It took on different forms. It took the form of the ocean spirit when it got angry in the final episode of this season. It took the form of night, the night sky. Like, um, one of the things that it did help me to step into and to understand about myself and moving forward in this year, you're gonna see more examples of that. One of the things that was healing for me is I don't always have to talk. I don't always have to speak up. Silence is powerful. I can be present without being verbal. I could show up without needing to articulate my thoughts. Sometimes just, you know, darkness, blackness provides contrast to the stars. They couldn't light up the sky without us to give contrast. And so my melanin, my darkness, I'm ever present. I'm always, baby, even when the sun come out, baby, it's gonna be shade somewhere. It's gonna be some dark somewhere, honey. You cannot blot out all of the darkness. You cannot eradicate darkness. You cannot remove it. And I just, um, it perplexes me that darkness has such a negative connotation, such a wicked and evil connotation, but the um the uplifting thing about that is that darkness is built for it. You know, it's built for it. I think darkness is truly misunderstood. I was watching another Netflix special about the dark, and I enjoyed that because darkness is really misunderstood. Chaos is misunderstood. All of these things are are forces of nature and are aspects of existence and creation that have to participate in order for us to understand the full meaning of things. You don't understand what joy is. You don't understand what peace is. You don't understand what order is. You don't understand what hope is. You don't understand why faith is necessary if you have not experienced chaos, if you have not experienced wickedness, if you have not experienced tribulation or negativity, you don't understand why certain things are necessary, why certain things are beneficial. And so I think that's what perplexes me about the human gaze is this necessity to demonize certain things, to exalt other things, to make this right and to make this wrong. And I feel like that's inherently about control. This is about conquering. So in order to conquer a community or a tribe's mind, you have to convince them what is wrong and what is right. You have to convince them of what is moral and what is immoral or what is immoral, even though in the bigger scheme of things, in the grand design, few of us have any clue as to what's immoral and what's moral because we don't know. We haven't seen the bigger picture. We don't know how this story is gonna play out and give someone else purpose. Like sometimes chaotic things or things that appear destructive or things that appear immoral, they happen in order to give purpose to someone else's life. Like the storms that we go through, the trials that we go through, the what makes the story of the Avatar worth watching is the Fire Nation. The Fire Nation comes in, wants to take over. We see this time and time again in stories like this. The hero, the savior, cannot be the savior or the hero if there's not any chaos. If there's not a being who is playing this role of villain, you can't even be the hero. You can't. You have no purpose. Why are you here? What's your point? The villain, the chaos, the darkness, it gave you purpose. It gave you something to do with your time. And so, you know, I don't know. Like I look at things differently. I play the whole tape, um, and I've begun to do that more and more. And I think as I'm maturing and as I'm getting older, what the Avatar did bring back up for me and what it did remind me of is you ain't gotta speak on everything. Like literally just looking at like the fight scenes was kind of boring. The fight scenes was kind of boring. The visual effects was cute. I did like the way they were telling the story, but there was just words when it didn't need to be words. And as a content creator and a storyteller who is looking to venture back off into storytelling, I think that's one of the things that I want to do differently, as I receive more budgets, um, learning how to be powerful, not lip singing, because I'm not shitting on lip singing. I'm not hating on pantomiming, but you still, imitating someone else's storytelling. You're still channeling someone else's storytelling, but learning how to tell stories that don't require all of this verbiage, because sometimes you could hear the emptiness in the verbiage, like especially when you use young actors, especially when you use actors who are not seasoned. Yeah, you're perfect for the role because of your age, but you haven't necessarily been through enough for you these to deliver these messages in a way that sounds convincing. And so learning how um, to emote authenticity and to be believable. So a lot of that, like I was looking at Aang, and Aang looked like he couldn't cry to save his life. His eyes were so dry as I don't know what. And it's so crazy. The the one who played okay, so the two Asian children that was the children of the Fire Lord, I just couldn't imagine being that invested in what my parents said. Like I couldn't imagine caring so much about what my daddy said. Like, I'm kind of thankful. They say, "Oh, your daddy wasn't there. Oh, you grew up in, you didn't really have, the support." I don't need that much support. I don't need you standing over me. Like I no, y'all could call it greatness. Y'all could call it him being tough on them for greatness. I don't need that type of father figure. I would rather have a deadbeat dad than have a dad who's going to exist in my life to do that. If I had to choose between my daddy, who was not there, and the daddy that the Fire Nation had, I can't think of the children right now. But if I had to choose between a deadbeat dad and that is my dad, I'm gonna take deadbeat dad for 500. Some of y'all parents is way too invested in your life, and there's a reason why you grow up to be dictators and colonizers and oppressors. Maybe you should have had a deadbeat dad. maybe you should have had a deadbeat mom. Maybe the best thing they could have done for you was not being in your life. Maybe that was a gift. Maybe their absence was a gift. Y'all always said the mama need to be there, the daddy need to be there. Not if you fucked up. Be fucked up over there. Be a deadbeat over here. Let me figure this out on my own. I'm gonna be all right. So sometimes being in your children's life ain't always for the best. Sometimes it's better to be a deadbeat. Because I couldn't imagine being that invested in trying to please my father, being that invested in trying to prove to my father that I couldn't imagine being that invested. I'm just not that invested. So that was another thing for me that no, I just didn't get that. Zuko was just too invested in trying to please his father. Um, and I recognized the his Uncle Osai, I think it's Osai. I recognized him from Kim's Convenient. And I'm not gonna lie, I was looking at him and I kept saying he looked like the 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 Asiatic person that plays in Kim's Convenience. And I was like, am I, is this racist? Is this colorist? Because am I saying all of them look alike to me? And so I had to Google to see if it was him, and it turns out it was him. I mean, it's amazing how he made his voice change. They really made him look different, but I think it was something around the eyes. He is an amazing, oh my goodness, he's an amazing actor. Oh my goodness. And I ain't gonna lie, he's an older man, but he could get it. I give him some. Oh yes, I would. I get that little cute little butterball some. He is so cute, baby. He could get it. Papa could get it. Papa could get it. Papa definitely could get it. Papa could get it. But yeah, um, I think that's really all I wanted to say about the Avatar. Like I don't know. I was expecting something different. I was not expecting not to see any black people, even though it wasn't any black people in the previews, and there wasn't any black people in previous episodes. I think that what they're gonna try to do though, because they're doing 3 seasons of this, well, they're probably gonna do 3 seasons of it. I think that they're going to try to correct it and maybe a following season because I do think that people are going to say something. That is going to be the critique. Like, this is real life. It's one thing when you do it in anime, it's another thing when you do it in real life. Like, when it's another thing when you make the effort to erase black people in real life. So, yeah. But we were still present. We were just more primordial. That's what I'm telling myself. We showed up in primordial. We showed up as primordial entities. We were that night sky. Those scenes that they kept having. We was the ocean spirit. We were in the spirit world. We showed up in other ways. We showed up in primordial ways. That's what I'm telling myself. Because the avatar is still a very powerful, meaningful message that continues to inspire me, continues to empower me, and regardless of the fact that I didn't see anyone that looked like they could have been directly related to me, um, I understand at the end of the day that we're all connections and we're all mirrors of each other. And just because they didn't get it right doesn't mean that I have to allow myself to be so upset about it that I don't even talk about it or I don't even support it. You know, yeah. I'm gonna be Michelle in this instance. I'm gonna go high. I'm gonna go high on this one. But yeah, that's I think that's pretty much all I have. I think I've expressed what I needed to express. You know, I was expecting something a little different, but it was true to past. Um, and I will definitely keep watching. I will definitely watch future seasons. So let me light my candles for today. We'll light the candle of past, present, and future. One candle, one flame represents the past, one flame represents now, and one flame represents tomorrow. I light these fires in honor of the ancestors who have come, the ancestors who are here, and the ancestors who will come. As I blow out this candle on the physical plane, it grows with intensity and purpose on the spiritual plane, preparing us for times that are now. Thank you all for joining me for this live. Make sure you click like. Make sure you subscribe if you're a new person because we talk about things, you know. I don't know how much talking I'm gonna be doing this year because that really was like what the takeaway was from me, you know, like the wordiness of it all. Um, I definitely want to move different in 2024, and I'm figuring out what that looks like as we speak. Um, I'm continuing on my vegan diet. I'm still abstinent right now. I'm puffing the trees, but you know that could change today or tomorrow. You know, having a sip here and there that could change today or tomorrow. Um, I just definitely want to become a little bit more disciplined with my life. I want to give a shout out to one of my mamas, Kiki Darling. I had the opportunity to see her yesterday um, while I was there handling some business. But yeah, so shout out to Mama if you see this. But yeah, I definitely want to move differently in the coming year, and that's what it brought up for me more than anything. Is that words ain't always powerful. You know, sometimes the silence. You know, sometimes you just sit back and let your art speak for you. Damananandara Kua keeps spinning and turning, Iangani, Iyanko Kalukalo, which means I am a child of God Goddess. And if I am, you know you are. We honor and celebrate and acknowledge all the ancestors who are here, the ancestors who will come, and the ancestors who will come.